Commander Marcus Breaker. Hayes barely noticed the woman changing his bag. She was small, quiet, and her hands trembled as she adjusted the drip. Just another nurse. Probably new. Probably scared of blood. He'd seen 1,000 like her. Soft, civilian, the kind who'd never survive 5 minutes in combat. But when 6 armed assailants stormed St. Michael's Medical Center in Newark at 4:17 a.m., taking hostages and executing guards, Hayes watched something impossible happen. The timid nurse didn't run. She didn't scream. She picked up a fallen rifle. And the assailants ran. Because Letitia Decker wasn't just a nurse. She was Angel, a decorated combat medic who'd killed more enemies than most SEALs. And the hospital was about to learn who they'd been underestimating every single day. The fluorescent lights of St. Michael's Medical Center hummed with that bone-deep buzz that only night shift workers truly understand. It was 2:47 a.m. on a cold Tuesday in November. Rain hammered the windows of the 4th-floor trauma ward like angry fists. The kind of night where nothing good happens. Letitia Decker stood at the nurse's station, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the medication cart she was restocking for the 3rd time. She was 27 but looked older. Exhaustion had carved shadows under her dark eyes. Her scrubs hung loose on her small frame, 2 sizes too big, like a child playing dress-up in her mother's clothes. Her hands trembled slightly as she counted morphine vials. "Decker, for God's sake, move faster." The sharp voice of head nurse Barbara Jennings cut through the quiet murmur of the ward. Barbara was 52, gray-haired, and moved with the brutal efficiency of someone who'd seen it all and liked none of it. She stood with her hands on her hips, glaring at the newest addition to her staff. "I don't pay you to count pills the pharmacy already counted. I pay you to get meds in patients and clear beds. You've been here 3 weeks, Decker, and you still move like you're walking on eggshells." Letitia nodded, her face flushing crimson. "Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am." She didn't argue. She never argued. Since arriving at St. Michael's 6 weeks ago, Letitia had been invisible. She ate lunch alone in her beat-up Honda Civic in the parking garage. She never joined the other nurses for drinks at O'Malley's bar after shifts. When trauma cases rolled in, car wrecks, stabbings, gunshot wounds, the gritty stuff that separated real nurses from the weak ones, Letitia always faded into the background, handling paperwork or restocking supplies, leaving the blood and chaos to everyone else. The consensus among the staff was unanimous. Letitia Decker was soft. Dead weight. She belonged in a quiet pediatric clinic in the suburbs, not the inner-city meat grinder of a level 1 trauma center. "Look at her," Dr. Julian Thorne whispered to a resident near the Keurig machine. Thorne was the attending physician that night. 43, Johns Hopkins educated, arrogant, and possessed of a god complex that barely fit through the double doors. He gestured with his coffee mug toward Letitia, who was struggling to unlock a supply cabinet. "She's shaking. Literally shaking. If a real bleeder comes in tonight, she'll faint. I give her 2 more weeks before she quits." The resident, a cocky kid named Greg from NYU Medical, smirked. "Maybe she's just cold, Dr. Thorne." "She's scared," Thorne said dismissively. "Some people have the stomach for this work, and some don't. She's prey. In the wild, she'd be dead in 5 minutes." Letitia heard every word. She had ears like a bat, though she pretended not to. She finally got the cabinet open, grabbed a box of gauze, and hurried toward bed 7 to change a dressing on a homeless man's infected leg wound. As she worked, her hands did tremble. But if anyone had looked closely, really closely, they would have noticed something strange. The tremble wasn't fear. It was restraint. Like a tightly coiled spring fighting not to release. When the homeless man, a grizzled veteran named Carl, winced as she cleaned the wound, Letitia's voice changed. It dropped an octave, becoming soothing, almost hypnotic. "Deep breath, Carl. Look at the ceiling tiles. Count them. You're okay. I've got you." Her movements, clumsy when Barbara was watching, suddenly became fluid and precise. She debrided the wound and wrapped the bandage with mechanical efficiency. Tight, Perfect, military-grade field dressing. Carl looked down at his leg, blinking. Damn, nurse. That was fast. You done this before. Letitia blinked, snapping out of whatever trance she'd been in. She hunched her shoulders again, returning to the mousy persona. Oh, just nursing school. Practice. She scurried away before he could ask more. Back at the nurses' station, the radio crackled to life. St. Michael's Base, this is Medic 42. We are inbound. ETA 3 minutes. High-value military transfer from Joint Base Maguire. Male, approximately 40, critical condition. Multiple GSWs to chest and abdomen. BP dropping fast. This is a code black. Repeat, code black. Barbara keyed the mic. Copy, 42. Trauma Bay 1. We're ready. She looked at Letitia. Deca, Prep Bay 1. Crash cart, suction, the works. And try not to faint when you see the blood. Yes, ma'am, Letitia whispered. If only Barbara knew. Blood was the least of Letitia's problems. Because the man in that ambulance was about to change everything. The ambulance bay doors exploded open. Rain and cold air rushed in. 2 paramedics wheeled in a stretcher at a dead sprint, and flanking them were 2 men who definitely weren't paramedics. They wore black tactical pants, compression shirts, and had that unmistakable operator look, hard eyes, coiled posture, hands never far from concealed weapons. One of them, a tall black man with a scar running down his neck, grabbed Dr. Thorne's arm. Doc, listen carefully. This is Commander Marcus Hayes. Navy SEAL Team 6. You lose him, and I will personally make sure you never practice medicine again. Are we clear? Thorne yanked his arm free, his face red. Get out of my trauma bay. Security. The operators were ushered out, but the tension remained. On the table, Commander Hayes was dying. The monitor screamed. Flatline. He's coding. Nurse Camille yelled. V-fib. Paddles. Charged to 200, Thorne barked. Clear. Thump. Nothing. 300. Clear. Thump. Still nothing. Thorne was sweating now. Where's the bleeder? I can't see through all this blood. In the corner, invisible as always, Letitia watched. She saw what Thorne missed. The femoral artery. Ruptured. Hidden under the massive hematoma in Hayes's left thigh. 90 seconds until he bled out. Letitia's hands stopped trembling. Her breathing slowed. The chaos faded. She moved. She shoved Thorne aside and plunged her bare hand into Hayes's thigh wound. What the hell? Thorne started. Vascular clamp. Now. Letitia's voice was different. Cold. Commanding. Absolute. Thorne froze. Clamp. Now. Camille slapped the clamp into Letitia's hand. Letitia found the artery. Clamped it. The bleeding stopped. Suture kit. 3-0 proline. She sutured the artery in 90 seconds flat. Perfect knots. Military precision. The monitor beeped. Rhythm returned. We have sinus rhythm. Camille shouted. BP rising. He's stable. Letitia pulled her blood-soaked hands out, stepped back, and walked out of the bay without a word. Thorne stood there, mouth open, staring. What just happened? Nobody answered. Letitia locked herself in the women's locker room. Her hands shook violently now, not from fear, but from adrenaline crashing through her system. She turned on the sink and watched Hayes's blood swirl down the drain. She looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't Letitia Deca. It was someone else. Someone she'd buried 3 years ago. Angel. The flashback hit like a freight train. Fallujah, Iraq. 2017. Letitia kneeling in the sand, covered in blood. A young soldier, PFC Danny Rodriguez, 19, from El Paso, dying in her arms. His femoral artery severed by shrapnel. Gunfire echoing. Explosions in the distance. Angel, we gotta move now. Captain Reeves yelling. He dies if I stop, Letitia said, ice cold. She finished the suture. Rodriguez lived. She carried him 50 yards under fire. Got him to the Humvee. Later, they gave her a Silver Star. Later, she killed 6 insurgents with her M9 while doing CPR on a sergeant. Later, they called her Angel. Because she decided who lived and who died. Letitia blinked. She was back in the locker room. She dried her hands and walked out. 2 men in black tactical gear stood near the ICU. One of them, the scarred man from earlier, saw her and approached. You the nurse who saved Commander Hayes? Letitia kept her eyes down. I just did my job. The man studied her. What's your name? Letitia Decker. Where'd you serve? Her heart stopped. I don't know what. Cut the crap, nurse. Nobody sutures a femoral in 90 seconds without combat medical training. Where did you serve? Letitia's jaw tightened. I'm just a nurse. The man stared at her, then handed her a blank card with a phone number. If you remember where you served, call me. We could use someone like you. He walked away. Letitia crumpled the card and shoved it in her pocket. She didn't want to be found. But the past doesn't stay buried. 6 hours later, Commander Hayes woke up in the ICU. His operator, Dutch, leaned over. Welcome back, boss. You flatlined twice. Who saved me? Hayes asked, voice hoarse. Some nurse. Tiny woman. Looked terrified, but she moved like one of us. Hayes frowned. What do you mean? She clamped your femoral with her bare hands and sutured it in under 2 minutes. I've only seen that in combat medics. Later that night, Letitia entered Hayes's room to check vitals. She avoided eye contact, adjusted the 4, made notes. Hayes watched her. He saw the calluses on her fingertips. Rifle calluses. He saw her posture hunched, but feet in a combat stance. He saw her eyes, downcast, but constantly scanning for threats. What's your name? Hayes asked. Letitia Decker. You saved my life. I just did my job. Where'd you learn to suture like that? Letitia froze for a fraction of a second. Nursing school. Bullshit. Letitia looked at him. For one brief moment, Hayes saw something in her eyes. Something cold, sharp, dangerous. Something he recognized. Then she looked away and left. Hayes grabbed his phone and called Dutch. Run a background check. Letitia Decker. Late 20s. Black woman. I think she's military. You think she's one of ours? I think she's more than that. At 4:17 a.m., the hospital's power grid flickered. Once. Twice. Then the lights died. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing the halls in dim red light. Then came the gunfire. 3 sharp cracks from the ground floor. Screaming. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged. The doors opened. 6 men stepped out. Black masks. Tactical gear. AR-15 rifles. The lead man fired a burst into the ceiling. Everybody down. Now. Nurses screamed. Patients scrambled. Dr. Thorne froze. Everyone dropped to the floor. Everyone except Letitia. She was already moving. Silent. Invisible. She slipped into the supply closet, leaving the door cracked. The assailants moved through the ward, rounding up hostages. The leader grabbed Thorne. Where's the SEAL? Where's Hayes? Thorne stammered. I don't. The man slammed the rifle but into Thorne's stomach. Thorne collapsed. ICU. Room 12, Barbara blurted. Please don't hurt anyone. Smart. The leader gestured to 2 men. Kill the SEAL. Kill anyone guarding him. Two assailants headed toward the ICU. Letitia watched from the closet. She had two choices. Stay hidden. Stay safe. Or become Angel again. She closed her eyes. She saw Danny Rodriguez. Captain Reeves. All the soldiers she'd saved. All the ones she couldn't. She opened her eyes. The choice was made. Letitia Decker died in that closet. Angel was reborn. She grabbed a scalpel, a syringe of succinylcholine, and slipped into the shadows. The hunt began. The two assailants moved down the ICU hallway. They didn't see the shadow drop from the ceiling tiles. Letitia landed on the rear man's back, driving the scalpel into the base of his skull. He dropped instantly. The second man spun. Letitia rolled, grabbed the dead man's rifle, and fired a burst into his knee. He screamed and fell. She jammed the syringe into his neck. Succinylcholine. Paralytic. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Letitia whispered, "Wrong hospital." She moved to Hayes's room. He was awake now, eyes wide. "Stay down," she mouthed. The other four assailants were coming. Letitia took position behind the nurse's station, rifle ready. The leader's voice crackled on the radio. "Team 2, status?" Silence. "Shit. We have a hostile. All units, converge on ICU." The four men entered in formation. Letitia opened fire. Controlled bursts. 2 rounds each. One man dropped. The others scattered, returning fire. Bullets chewed up the station. Letitia counted their rounds. 12. 15. 18. They were wasting ammo. She waited for the reload pause. There. She popped up and fired. Another man down. 2 left. The leader threw a flashbang. Frag out. Letitia shoved a crash cart over it. Bang. The explosion was muffled. Her ears rang, but she kept moving. She fired. The leader's body armor stopped the rounds, but he stumbled back. 1 left. The last man panicked. Dropped his rifle. Pulled a pistol. Fired wildly. Letitia walked toward him. Calm. Cold. She fired twice. Center mass. He fell. Silence. 6 assailants. 6 bodies. Letitia stood there, breathing hard, blood on her hands. Behind her, Hayes stared, eyes wide. "Angel," he whispered. "Is that you?" Before Letitia could answer, the remaining assailants on the ground floor saw the carnage on the security cameras. And they ran. They didn't wait for backup. They didn't try to finish the job. They saw what Letitia Decker had done. And they ran. Because criminals recognize predators. And Angel was the most dangerous predator they'd ever seen. The FBI's hostage rescue team breached St. Michael's at 5:03 a.m. They found 6 dead assailants, 0 dead hostages, and 1 very confused hospital staff. They found Letitia sitting on the floor, back against the wall, shoulder bandaged. Commander Hayes pointed at her. "That woman saved my life. Twice. She took out 6 armed hostiles by herself. She's a hero." Agent Carver crouched in front of Letitia. "Ms. Decker, how did you?" "She's Angel," Dutch said, holding up a tablet. "Letitia Decker, former 68W combat medic. 3 tours. Silver Star. Call sign, Angel. Discharged 2020 with PTSD. Disappeared. Until tonight." Carver looked at Letitia. "Is this true?" Letitia looked up. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because I didn't want to be found." Carver nodded. "Well, Ms. Decker, you just saved 43 lives." Letitia didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted. Dr. Thorne appeared, pale. I owe you an apology. I was wrong." Letitia walked past him without a word. Barbara was in the hall, crying. "Letitia, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." You didn't need to know, Letitia said quietly. You just needed to treat me with respect. She walked away. Outside, the sun was rising over Newark. Letitia sat on the curb. Hayes limped out on crutches and sat beside her. You saved my life. Again. Just doing my job. Bullshit. You're a warrior, Angel. Letitia looked at him. I'm not Angel anymore. I'm just a nurse. Hayes shook his head. You can't bury who you are. Tonight proved that. Letitia didn't answer. 3 days later, Letitia returned to St. Michael's. She expected whispers, stares, fear. Instead, she found respect. Thorne nodded. Barbara offered coffee. The nurses smiled. In the break room, someone had taped a photo to the wall, a blurry image of Letitia holding a rifle, surrounded by smoke. Underneath, in Sharpie, Angel. Letitia stared at it. Then she smiled. Maybe she couldn't bury the past. Maybe she didn't need to. Hayes had left a voicemail. Angel, we're forming a new task force. Medical and tactical. Off the books. If you're interested, call me. Letitia listened 3 times. Then she saved the number. 2 weeks later, Letitia resigned from St. Michael's. No forwarding address. Some say she went back to the military. Some say she disappeared again. But if you ask Commander Hayes, he'll smile and say, Angels don't retire. They just wait for the next person who needs saving. And somewhere, in a hospital or battlefield or dark alley where evil thinks it can win, Letitia Decker is waiting. Because she's not just a nurse. She's Angel. And she decides who lives and who dies.